Working. AirPods. All right, I think we are live. Let me just double check this. Make sure the audio is working. Hello, hello. All right, we are working. All right, cool. Perfect. So today we are going to go through a deal that I got sent. If you're looking for the full screen version, please make sure that you are following on YouTube. And I'm going to try to make this fit into Instagram for those of you that are following on Instagram, but let's kind of talk through the details here. So here's where we have a deal in Knoxville, 3 bed, 1 bath, but in 1960. It's a subto deal. So subject to means that you are taking over the existing loan you're buying a property subject to the existing loan in place. Now, when that happens, it does not mean you're assuming the loan. You're simply taking over the payments on behalf of the seller. The loan will remain in the seller's name, but the title will transfer over to you, so you will actually have control over the property. Now, here's some of the details that we were provided to by the wholesaler. Its mortgage balance was $253,169. The interest rate of the loan was 6.75%. They're saying the PITI is 1900. There is a transaction coordination fee of $1,500. So the entry fee is going to be $30,000. So if you assume that, hey, let's roughly assume that the assignment fee is usually $10,000 per contract to pay for the wholesaler, then there should probably be about $20,000 that goes to the seller. So we'll put that into the price. Before we get into that, let's see if we can look up the deal really quickly on Redfin to one, grab the county. This is in Knox County. Okay, so this is 3532 Cunningham Road in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's see if we can briefly just go through some of the photos here. Outside looks fine. The living room looks fine. Floor looks fine. I would probably replace the flooring in the kitchen. That's about it. The kitchen looks pretty shape. These wood panel walls, I'm not sure if I love them. I might paint them over, but that might be a personal preference. We could probably get some comps to justify whether or not that rehab is needed. The bathroom looks okay. I mean, I would love to replace the flooring on the bathrooms too, but not a must do, just depending on the deal and whether the deal economics make sense. So these houses look fine. This looks like a basement, I'm assuming. Yeah, this is a basement, which could be turned to a recreation room. I'm not sure if we could turn it into additional bedroom because I can't tell if that's an egress door right there, because you do need another egress points. When you looked at the basement windows, right? See where the windows are high up there? That's way too high. Usually you want to be within 44 inches from the ground level up, just in case, someone needs to climb out in case of fires or anything like that. So those windows will not count as a second egress mode. TZ Borovsky, yes, we can connect, man. Just DM me your email on Instagram and we can always talk some more, man. Just let me know what you like to catch up about. So let's see. So there's no doors right here going down, and just so you want to be aware, you might want to have another side rail coming down here for on the right hand side of this staircase as you're facing it, because otherwise that might not be safe enough. All right, so we got a county. The next thing we want to do is look for the fair market rents, FMR. Okay, and to do that, you can go to HUD FMR. You can Google that, HUD space FMR. And from there, today I am not going through every single step-by-step process because I'm traveling, so my internet is a little bit slower. At my parents' home, it's the same affordable housing rental I grew up in, so slightly slower, but we're going to pivot. We're going to keep going. We're going to be consistent. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the zip code 37918, and we're going to look at the fair market rents, FMR, by zip code, by bedroom count. So you can see right here that the 3-bed FMR, which is technically the rent ceiling in most cases, is $1,520. Sometimes the local city or county might have a standard of living adjustment, so they might pay a little bit above FMR, but that's not in this case. So I'm going to note down the $1,520, which is the rent for the 3-bedroom, and then the $1,770, which is the rent for the 4-bedroom. I always like to grab the 4 bedroom just in case there is a creative way to add an extra bedroom count for this property, but that is not the case in this scenario. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to grab the market rent. So now that we have the FMR, which is the HUD determined rent for the rent ceiling, you need to compare that to the market rents. And in order to look at the market rents, I usually just use a quick cheat code and I go to affordablehousing.com. I go to the owner section and I go to the market rent estimator. Okay. Once I go in here, I'm going to plug in the address and plug in the bedroom count. Once I get in the bedroom count, I can see that you can see that there's this number right here. It is 2027 right here, 2027, and that is the average market rent for 25 units within a 1.61 mile radius. Now we are going to write that number down because that is what I'm going to use to compare. Usually you can charge for rents the lower of the two number, meaning if the market rent is above the FMR, typically the max rent you're going to get is the FMR. But if the FMR is greater than the market rent, typically you might only see that you can charge only the market rent because they have a test. It's called the rent reasonableness test, which means that just because you are renting out the home to a housing choice voucher holder does not mean you can charge them above market rent simply because they are a voucher holder. Hopefully that makes sense. And then the next thing I want to do is let me just do a quick gauge of the neighborhood. I'm going to do a quick street view just to make sure it's not in a really, really bad neighborhood. I don't see any like big charge. It looks pretty suburban for the most part. So I'm going to expect the crime is a little bit lower. So next thing I'm doing, I'm going to go to tophap.com. On tophap.com, once you kind of click in the address, you can go into this area. It's called the neighborhood section. As you scroll down, you're able to get the crime index score. I live in an area where my crime index score is 88. So this says the crime index score is 91 and the national average 100. So this is below average crime. So I'm guessing that this is a pretty solid neighborhood. All right, cool. So solid neighborhood. The crime index score seems to match up to what I saw on the street view. So I feel good or pretty solid about the neighborhood because I've never been here, never been to Knoxville, don't know anything about it. I'm just simply doing something that I do as a standard practice for every single property that comes across my way. So I have a standard way of looking at each property and evaluate them on a consistent basis. All right, so now that we have our numbers, we have our deal details, right? All these numbers. We have the FMR, we have the market rent, we've checked the street view, and then we also checked the crime score. I'm now ready to go plug in all these numbers on my Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to stop sharing 1 second, and I'm going to reshare the Excel file. Bear with me, guys. All right. So I'm now going to pop up the Excel spreadsheet. And from the Excel spreadsheet, this is where I started plugging in some of the numbers. Okay. I have $273,000 as the purchase price. And I got that by using the underlying mortgage balance of $253,169. I added $20,000 and then I added another $10,000 for the assignment fee because I'm assuming that the wholesaler is going to want to make some money on this deal. All right. Then I'm going to go down here and plug in all my numbers for the FMR. You can kind of see here in every single property I have done and always typically indicate for my partners, whenever I'm sharing any deals with them, what the FMR is by zip code, by bedroom count, all on the same spreadsheet so that they don't have to go and do all this research again and do their own due diligence. They're pretty comfortable with the process that I go through to analyze deals, so they're pretty happy with it. I then also plug in all of the numbers that are based on the route mile radius, and this is what we kind of get here. I forgot what the radius that I did for 4 bedroom, but I always grab the market rents for 3 bedrooms, and then I also grab the market rents for 4 bedrooms. And I do this because I want to show my investors, hey, what if we converted this into a 4th bedroom? What if there was a way that we cut it a window into the basement so that we can increase the square footage on home, but also increase the amount of rents we're able to get because HUD typically pays on bedroom count and not bathroom count or square footage. Now, might they compare it on an apples to apples basis afterwards? Yeah, they absolutely can. But as a general rule of thumb, the bedroom count matters a little bit more in these scenarios. So going up here now, I want to start plugging the numbers. So if you guys want a copy of the spreadsheet, always just DM me your email and you guys can see just exactly how I go through it. I've been very fortunate to have been given these spreadsheets, and I've been able to just modify it for what I need based on some of the rehabs I've done for my properties in Scottsdale. So in every single property, I usually go line item by line item, and I'm putting aside like $1,500 for the roof, just because usually there's something in the property that you cannot see necessarily from just the photos. So I always leave about $1,500 for the roof. I always leave about $500 to clean up the landscaping while I'm doing any sort of renovations. For this home, I'm assuming I need to repaint the entire house because it's got a lot of different colors, and I think if I can just make it a little bit more neutral or a little bit more modern and fresher, I can attract a better tenant. Now, if you remember from the photos, most of the house looks like it was in pretty decent shape. So I'm going to assume that the entire flooring system does not need to get replaced, but we did see some flooring in the kitchen. We saw some flooring in the basement that maybe we want to put in if we do want to finish the basement. So I'm putting in 500 square feet, which I got from 1497 divided by 3. And I'm simply doing an estimate to figure out whether or not this is a deal. Because if this might be a deal or close enough to a deal, then I can at least justify sending out a contractor out there to give me a bid. Because every good contractor is going to be busy. So you are only going to have a few chances to make sure that you're not wasting their time. And more importantly, you might even want to consider paying them to go out there and give you a bid personally. Okay. Then I'm setting aside another $1,000 for termite fumigation because this is a subto deal. So I imagine that there isn't going to be that many like inspection contingencies like you would see in a primary residence home purchase where you are buying in a home and then you are doing an inspection. Okay. So this, all in all, this comes up to 11 grand, 11.5K rehab, and I always add in about a 20% contingency for things that I do not expect, so I can have a little bit extra budget. Okay. On the right hand side on column K, that's where I put in my sub two loan, which is 253 at 6.75%. That translates to the principal interest over here. And I knew that the PITL was 1900. So I simply took 1900 and I subtracted the principal interest of a sub two loan to get to my property tax number. And I added in just extra $30 per month for insurance because I anticipate that the insurance will be a little bit more expensive as time goes on, but also because it's an investment property. So typically insurance premiums cost a little bit more for investment properties. I then set aside 10% for my maintenance, which is typically setting aside money every single month so that I anticipate something breaking in the home. That could be the roof, the HVAC, the water heater. It doesn't matter what it is, but eventually something breaks in the home. And it's naive to think that your cash flow is just simply your gross rents minus your PITI. There's all these other expenses, and I honestly see people making mistakes like this all the time when they underwrite. They always assume that there is no repairs and stuff like that, which is really unrealistic. Usually, I have another line for sewer, HOA. I don't have any expenses like that here because I'm not really familiar with Knoxville. So who knows? Maybe they might make you pay sewer expenses like St. Louis does. But I don't have anything in there for now because I just want to see if it's a deal with or without it. I have 8% for property management and I have 3% for vacancy, assuming I'm renovating the property really well. Now, this is how I quickly can see that this is not a deal. Right now, this home, assuming the current terms, this property will cost me $730. And this is assuming um, the best FMR, which is 1520, which is the maximum for what the HUD determined as the fair market rent. This is 17.8% cash on cash. This is far, 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 far from a deal from a long-term rental perspective. Maybe it is a deal if you do something else, but let's see what it takes. What if I just rent it out for market rent, which apparently is 2020 to 2020. And even you put it to 2020, you're still losing $334 a month. And this is a negative 8.1% cash on cash return. So for me, this is not a deal. I don't see any way of swinging this. That could be a deal. And as you guys get more and more practice, I saw this reel from Jesse Itzler today, the billionaire who started a private jet company and is one of the owners of the Atlanta Hawks basketball team. If you spend 18 minutes a day for a year, that equates to almost 100 hours a year that you spend on a specific discipline. And this is why we're doing this. This is why we're analyzing a deal every single day so that you guys can learn and how to spot a deal when a deal comes across your table and slaps you in the face. And if you are able to spend 100 hours in any discipline, you will be better than 95% of the population. just simply from underwriting affordable housing rentals. This is why I do this. I want you guys to create your own YouTube channel, analyze your own deals so that you guys can figure out how to raise your own capital. Because one of the biggest excuses I hear from people is that, hey, I don't have any money. Real estate is not for me. Well, if you go to an investor and they say, hey, I found a deal, they're going to ask you, how do you know this is a deal? You can go point them to your own YouTube channel and say, hey, look at the past 100 deals that I've looked at, or past 365 deals that you looked at. And then tell them, like, hey, if I have spent at least 18 minutes a day analyzing a deal every single day for the past year, and I have evidence to prove it on my YouTube channel, you can at least say, hey, I know how to underwrite Section 8 affordable housing rentals better than 95% of the population. And that will give you the undeniable track history of not only proving to your investors, but most importantly, proving to yourself that you know what you're doing so that when you spot a deal, you can be confidently investing in that deal yourself because you have done it, you have put in the work and you have done the work to actually analyze all these different markets and determine your own buy boxes for all this stuff. For me, when I looked at this deal, and I'm starting to see this now, right? When you see how far apart the rents are from the purchase price, like if you're buying a $270,000 home and the PITA is 1900, but your rent is like 1520. If your rent is already below the PITI, chances are it's not a great deal, and it really depends on your own investment appetite, right? So in this case, it was definitely not a deal for us. So um, I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope you guys are able to kind of copy what I'm doing and start your own YouTube channel because I truly believe that in order for us to solve the affordable housing problem, I cannot keep all this information to myself. I also understand that a lot of people struggle with the first step. Like, what should I do? How should I do it? I'm not saying that this is the best way to do it. I'm simply saying that this is one way I've done it. And this is one way that I am able to convince myself to not be an analysis paralysis so that I can take enough action and analyze enough deals so that I feel comfortable investing in deals myself. Now, this is not a solicitation for any investments. This is not investment advice. I'm simply showing you guys the unsexy side of real estate. This is the stuff that no one talks about. There's no flashing Lamborghinis or Ferraris in this video. It's an Excel spreadsheet, but this is what it takes for you guys to get comfortable around whether or not a deal is a deal. And in this scenario, you can kind of quickly see when the PITI was 1900, but then the fair market rent was at 1520. This is overwhelmingly not a deal. It's very hard to close the gap, even if you assume that you took out all of the maintenance. Like, oh, there's no gonna be no maintenance, which is impossible, right? And sometimes people also don't put in property management in your expenses. And for me, that's almost a mistake because why did we get into real estate? We get into real estate for the financial freedom, the freedom of choice so that you can do whatever you want. And if you don't underwrite a deal with property management in place right now, then you're essentially buying yourself a job because you didn't give yourself enough wiggle room to hire out a property manager to oversee your property when the time comes. So you're not on vacation and you're looking at your phone to make sure that there's no tenants calling you about toilets and trash. So hopefully this was helpful. I've been doing this every single day, and I'm going to do it for another 50 days so that I can go 100 days in a row. And who knows, maybe I'll just keep going afterwards because this is how habits are formed. Honestly, right now, it feels weird if I don't analyze the deal every single day. So that's how I know that my habit is forming. Every single day that I think about, you know what, maybe I won't do it today. I did it on Thanksgiving. There's no excuses. And I think once you're able to commit to yourself, I think that's when the magic really happens. So have an amazing Saturday, everybody. I'm analyzing deals here on 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Not going to hang out with family, but I'm doing this video for you guys. I really want you guys to see what commitment looks like. And hopefully this inspires you guys to start your own YouTube channel, to do your own analysis every single day. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. Without people like you guys, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So I've been doing a lot of reflecting over the past couple of days. It's Thanksgiving. I'm back in my old apartment where I grew up in. It's really nostalgic, and it's really, really cool now that I get to kind of come back and pay it forward and help other people. So TZ Borovsky, yeah, just DM me your email, man. I'll send you your DM. I don't want to give out my email over here because then I just invite a lot of spam. So have an amazing Saturday, everybody. Have an amazing weekend. I hope you guys continue to spend a lot of quality time with your family, your loved ones. And I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. TZ Borowski, I'll follow you, and then I will make sure I get back to you.